Okay, it's just a little past 7:30, so we're going to get started. And I am actually, I guess I'm already recording. I want to thank everybody for joining in on what I think is going to be a great webinar this evening. I have 5 fabulous panelists, I know, because I know them all individually, and they have been incredibly generous, not just with their time, but they're going to be very generous with all of us tonight to share things about their experiences, not only at their colleges, but also their process of thinking about applying, and so the application process as well. Before I introduce everyone, and for what I'm sure is going to be a very informative and enjoyable evening, I have a few things I do want to point out. We will be recording this evening, and all the participants are muted. If you do have a question, you can go to the Q&A little box at the bottom of your screen, and then pose a question. And if I see that there are a few questions, I will leave time to pose them to the panelists. I'm going to get started with introductions, and actually my panelists, I'm going to do it a little differently now. What I want to do is I'm going to introduce each of you by name and your school, and then I will ask the panelists individually to share their major, what they're involved in on campus, off campus, so what engages them at their universities. So I'm going to start in what's my upper left. Holly Rittmaster is a student at Franklin and Marshall College in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and she is just finished her sophomore year and is about to become a junior. And Alex Rosano is also a rising junior. She's at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Kate Salkowitz is my one college graduate here who just graduated in May from University of Texas, Austin. So I feel I have to do a congratulations. Am I doing this right? Congratulations to Kate. Will Rittmaster, yes, related to Holly. He is also a rising junior. He's at George Washington University. And last but not least, I have Olivia Guarnieri, and she is going into her junior year at the University of Michigan. So I think I'll go in that same order. Holly, why don't you tell us your major, whether you went in decided, undecided, and what you're involved in.
Hi, I went in undecided, but I'm now a joint boss, which is our special business program, and economics major with a French minor. I walked onto the F&M women's golf team in the fall, so I'm an athlete now. I joined Alpha Phi sorority, and through that, I am now the executive vice president of the Pan-Hellenic Council, which is the council that is in charge of all the sororities on campus.
Great. Okay. I did Alex next. Yes, Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm a rising junior, as Jane said. I'm double majoring in finance and economics. On campus, I'm involved in women in business, ethical responsible business network, and in both of those things, I've had executive roles, and I'm also in Greek life.
I have to ask you, are you dancing?
I danced my freshman year, but I didn't dance last year.
Okay, all right. Kate, why don't you tell us about your 4 years?
I'm Kate. I just graduated from the University of Texas at Austin. I studied radio, television, and film, and I had a minor in government, which is political science. My main university-affiliated activity was at the student television station, which was super awesome. I don't think anything, I'm not in Greek life, so I don't think anything else that I did besides having very cool, fun friends was school affiliated.
Okay, great. Will?
Hi, I'm Will. I'm a rising junior at GW. I'm a political science major. My main affiliations on campus, I'm in the Naval Reserve Officers Training Corps at GW. and the International Affairs Society, and I recently joined Greek Life.
Great. Okay. And Olivia.
Hi, I'm Olivia. So yeah, as Jane said, I'm at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. I am a communications major and an art and design minor with a certificate in marketing from the Ross School of Business. But I did go in undeclared. In terms of campus life, I am in a sorority, and I served as the vice president of communications for them. And I also have a job on campus too, at a local cafe.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm going to get started with the questions. And for most of you, applying to college seems like a long time ago. But thinking back to your own college experience or looking into colleges and doing your research, what would you say were some of the things that were especially helpful to you as you were going about learning about these schools? And I think, Alex, I'll start with you on that.
Sure. So I think one of the first things that was really helpful for me was just talking to students who were there, kind of like this, and just hearing the inside scoop about what they're doing, what they like about it, what they don't like about it. And I think really just hearing those personal stories, obviously taking everything with a grain of salt. But to hear from students, I think also research, comparing different academics was really important. So for me, I knew I went into Wisconsin as pre-business, so I knew that I was interested in studying business. So when I was applying, I was kind of comparing different business schools. And one of the things I really liked about Wisconsin was that it was 50% business classes compared to 50% letters and science classes, which I think is different from a lot of business schools. And I like how we have a very well-rounded business curriculum.
Great. One of the things that because I'm going to turn to Olivia next, but one of the things that I think is worth other people listening in to hear is that about 50% of the students who go into the business school at the University of Wisconsin go in as sophomores, not directly, as opposed to the Ross School at the University of Michigan, where most students, it's very difficult to transfer into Ross, so most students are applying as direct admits. But that's an aside. Olivia, tell me about your search and the things that were helpful to you.
Yeah, so I would definitely have to agree with Alex that talking to students was probably the biggest thing that helped me the most. And then using like the services like Niche, which you can like compare colleges, was really helpful. And you can like look at the different comments. So I used to do that a lot. And then really just like going on the website, I mean, you'd be surprised like the amount of information that the university websites have, like just going through all the different majors of each of the schools and sort of like what was expected in the school. I think that like really helped a lot.
Great. I also do want to add that just going, I want to stick this in here before I forget. I didn't mention UT, and at some point, Kate, I will want you to talk about the application process with UT. Actually, maybe this is a good time now before I go to the next question. I'm catching a little off guard here, but you applied directly into your program.
Yes.
And most students at UT Austin do.
Internal transfers at UT, depending on what you want to do, are notoriously difficult. I know a whole lot of people that had a hard time trying to get into McCombs. I know that if you want,
and that's the business school.
Yes, the business school. And a lot of people that try to get into the RTF program, which is Mind, Radio, Television, Film, you really, if you didn't get in there from the get-go, you need to prove to the school that you really care about film or whatever realm of the industry you care about, because they will turn away anybody who they think is just in it to play with a camera.
Huh. Will, I hadn't posed this, I thought to pose this question to you too, but you, I mean, you could go in undecided to GW. How easy is it to switch schools?
Well, I never had that problem because I'm a political science major, like
Right.
a lot of people there. But it's relatively easy. It's not. I've had a lot of friends who have transferred in and out of like the International Affairs Society. Academic advising is pretty easily accessible there. It's never been a problem for me. So it's a fairly smooth process if it needs to be done.
Yeah, but I do think you have to apply.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to apply.
It's definitely still like a process.
Yes. Okay.
And I at UT, adding minors, depending on what they are, but most of them are super easy. I woke up one day and decided I wanted to minor in government, and I went to my advisor and she said, okay, just check it off on your portal. And that was it. And also, I don't know about the other schools, the College of Communication will not allow you to minor within the school. I don't know if that applies to everybody, but if you are already in communication, you have to double major. I was thinking about journalism, but I didn't want to double major, so yeah.
Okay, interesting. I learned something new too. All right, so now in hindsight, reflecting back on your application process, is there anything that you in hindsight might think I would have done differently? Not in terms of the choice of schools, because I know you're all very happy where you are or where you graduated from, but just something you might have researched more thoroughly. Actually, Kate, I'm going to go back to you on this one.
Sure. I think for me, I wish that I had sort of opened my mind up to the possibility of going to school in different areas of the country. Jane, I don't know if you remember, I was very adamant that I needed to be no more than a 3-hour drive from home. It was the only thing I wanted. I was only going to apply to Tulane because I really liked Tulane. And I found UT for a very stupid reason that we don't have time to get into the story, but it was the furthest school that I applied to, and the second that I got admitted, I knew that it was the one. So I would say broaden your search beyond what you think you want, because you might find something that you didn't know that you like.
Okay, great. Thank you. Alex.
Yeah, I think I've kind of two different sides to this, kind of going off Kate and talking about actually the physical campus. I think I was surprised by how balanced the Wisconsin campus is. It's very much a city school as it is, having green and more a rural feel to it. So I think that was something that I was surprised that I liked, because I originally was like only looking at Big Tens and only wanted to be like, have a campus, green, quad, all of that. And I don't know what I would do without a city right now. I think that just having accessibility to grocery stores, like I'm able to go to Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, and just having much more of a sense of real life has been really amazing. And I've loved having that balance at school of when I want to go to the lake, I have that. And when I want to be in a city, I have that too. So that's more kind of the geographic breakdown. I think also, as far as research goes, I would have done more just looking into different majors. I think that, not to be a Debbie Downer, but once you kind of pick your major, for the most part, and you've started the coursework, that's the track that you're on. For me right now, I was lucky that I came in with a lot of credits. So I now have some flexibility in where I'm spending my class time. But I think that your freshman year is a great time to take classes in a lot of different areas, and things that you might not think you want to major in, but there are a lot of cool certificate programs, especially at Wisconsin, we call minor certificates. But yeah, I think that that's something I would have done. So taking freshman year to be able to explore different areas, and for the most part, you cross off a lot of gen eds with all the classes that you take. So you're working towards graduation anyway.
Great. Anybody else want to comment on that? Okay, I will move on. This is a question for Holly, because I did point out that you know, obviously I pick students who are having great experiences at their colleges. I think they can, you know, speak to that and speak candidly to their experiences. Holly is one of my students who did not get into her first choice school. And I know how happy she is at Franklin and Marshall now. So I want to ask Holly if she can share a little bit about her experience. You don't have to go into too much detail about, you know, licking your wounds, but any advice you would give to students who have their hearts set on a school?
Yes, I'm definitely happy now. So I'm very happy with the way it worked out. And I truly think that it might not be the same for everyone, but everything to me happened for a reason. And I definitely ended up where I was supposed to be. But it is definitely hard in the beginning. You know, it's like everyone has their heart set, or most people who, you know, apply early somewhere have their heart set on that school. And it is difficult when you don't get in. I got deferred and then rejected. So I kind of had that double whammy. So it definitely wasn't fun. But in that process, I was able to look at the other schools that I was applying to a lot more, because yes, I considered them before that because I applied to them, but because I had to make this decision that I was hoping I didn't have to, it made me look for different things that I wasn't aware of before. And yes, visiting the campuses made it a lot easier, but also I reached out to a lot of girls that I knew from high school and guys that are now at those schools to hear about what their experiences are. And I kind of took the people that I kind of relate to, and we were involved in similar things on campus, and that helped me pick F&M in the end, because a lot of the schools that I applied to were very similar, and in the end I was just deciding between small liberal arts schools in Pennsylvania that had a lot of similarities, and in the end, I guess like the vibe was different and the kind of person that they attract is different, and I went one way instead of the other. But I definitely think that everything happens for a reason, and you apply to all the schools in the beginning that you could see yourself at. So it's just important to keep an open mind if it doesn't work out the way you think it will, because if you had an interest in it in the beginning, then there's a reason why you chose to apply there. And I think that mindset really helped me, because yes, I was heartbroken and it's never a good feeling, but to be able to realize that you can be happy in a ton of different places was definitely really helpful. And just keeping an open mind, I think, was the best thing for me.
Great, thank you so much. I want to add one thing about that. This is not about Holly, but just about anybody who applies early decision. And for those of you who have worked with me, which are all of you, that I'm sure that when you got deferred and you had every other essay and application done and all you had to do is submit, you probably felt pretty good.
They were all submitted before that, which definitely made it easier.
Right, because there's nothing worse than hearing on December 15th you've been deferred from your early decision school and suddenly you have to madly start writing essays. So,
right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. How about, actually, Olivia, I'm going to ask you this question. Something that surprised you when you, that you weren't even thinking about beforehand, but surprised you about the school once you got to campus?
I think one thing that really surprised me was like the diversity of the student body. I mean, I knew like I was going to a big school, and so I knew I was going to meet a lot of people from all different areas, but I just like really didn't anticipate how like different it was going to be. And I like really enjoyed it, because like coming from the East Coast, the Midwest is like different, and just people out there are different. And also with like the University of Michigan, like it draws people from all over the world, all over the country, from all different socioeconomic backgrounds. And so I think that was what took me back the most, that like I wasn't expecting, was just the amount of like people I met that just grew up so differently from me. And it was like really nice to sort of like broaden my view, because I had grown up in such a small town. And so it was like just really nice to meet people from all different kind of backgrounds, who did all different types of things in high school. It was really cool.
Great. Can you just spend a moment just talking, you had said something earlier before we got started about academics and being a little surprised about.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I was definitely also too surprised about how easy it was to take classes across the different schools. So I went in undeclared and I really had no idea what I wanted to do. So I applied to the College of Letters, Sciences, and Arts, which is like the main college at Michigan. And I ended up staying in that college and I found a major that I really enjoyed. But I started like taking classes in like the engineering school, the art school, and I fell in love with the classes in the art school. So I'm actually like now minoring in the art school. And then some girls in my sorority told me about a program in the Ross School of Business. And so I looked into that and like I'm now a part of that program. So I was really shocked by that because I thought a big university, I thought the schools were going to be very separated. I thought it was going to be like engineering school was just for those students and the art school is going to be just for those students, and that you like I really would only be able to take classes in LSA. But that is like the least true thing ever. Like so many kids like cross study across the different schools. It's so easy, even if you don't want to like declare a major in another school, like you can always take classes in any of the schools on campus. So I think that's like a really cool aspect because I know sometimes at other schools it's like harder to take classes across the different programs, but at Michigan they really do encourage you to branch out and try taking classes in other schools.
Great. That's really great to hear. Kate, I'm going to let you answer, and then I'm actually going to go back to Alex and actually Will. I want you to weigh in on this too, because you know those of you who are in these big schools that have separate colleges within the school. Kate, I'll start with you on that, and then.
Sure. Texas was full of surprises. Definitely the first surprise is just that being from the New York metro area, I thought that every city had like amazing public transportation and I would never need a car. You definitely need a car here. I lived without mine freshman and sophomore year. My parents made me get a job first before they would send me the car, but you're not walking distance from the store or anything like that. As far as the school itself, I was surprised by how rigorous my coursework was. I chose UT because when I was applying to college, I thought I had been in, all AP and honors in high school, and I was like, I am sick of working so hard. I just want to go somewhere that's good but fun, and it's not going to be so that my coursework isn't going to be so difficult that I want to die. And I wouldn't say I wanted to die here, but I was definitely, it was the coursework was a lot more difficult than I expected. I expected Texas to be a place full of very dumb people. As it turns out, it is not. There are very smart people who live here, and they teach high classes.
Can I ask you in terms of taking classes, because you mentioned government, being a minor, so it's pretty easy then to take. What about in the business school, in Macomb, in the engineering?
So it totally varies based on what department you want to be in. I was also very surprised how much time I had to invest in knocking out core requirements. UT is a public school. It is a state of Texas school. I'm a film major. I had to take science classes. I luckily tested out of taking math. I did not take math, but you do have to have math. I was able to knock out a bunch of those with AP credits, but you will have to take history, you will have to take government, you will have to take all of those things. And once you knock all of that out, then a world opens up for you, and you can take, one of my best friends was in a printing class, like art prints this semester. I took an acting class once, and I started to take upper division government classes, and I thought, this is awesome, and I would like to minor in it. And I went to my advisor, and she said, okay, you're a minor now. And that was it.
Yep.
Double majoring and transferring between schools, definitely a different story though.
Yes. Okay. Alex, tell us about how easy it is to take classes across schools at Wisconsin.
So I found it very easy. I'm double majoring across the business school and letters and sciences. So the kind of breakdown for that is I take my major is primarily with the business school, so I fill all the business requirements. And then I basically just added on the major classes of econ. In addition to that, I've been able to take a ton of electives. So before I was even in the business school, I was taking business school classes. I also, like Jane was asking about, I took dance classes. So I took ballet, contemporary. My first year, I took Pilates just for fun. I'm taking a computer science class next semester. So I think that it's definitely super easy to take classes across different schools. Something that I'm struggling, to be honest with right now, is now figuring out kind of how to, I want to like kind of combine all the classes that I'm taking across schools. And I'm interested in data analytics. So Wisconsin, I don't want to say we're behind the ball because I know we're trying to catch up, but we, as of right now, we have a data science major, but there isn't really a school. And I know they're doing a lot of work to kind of combine statistics with computer science with business. And so it's been really cool to talk to faculty to see how they're trying to develop that program. Obviously, there have been setbacks from COVID, but I think the biggest challenge I'm facing with that right now is kind of I'm creating my own curriculum and then I have to articulate that myself in my resume. But I think that we're definitely on the right track. We just kind of have to get there.
Great. Will, what have you been able to do across schools, and have you taken advantage of that?
Well, I haven't taken any business or economics classes, but I've taken a few math classes and geology classes, which have been easy. I haven't had a problem taking a class outside of the arts and sciences school. But I would say that the schools are separated by a good amount. I mean, obviously, like it's political science focused, but but GW has poured a lot of money recently into like engineering and the medical school ops because we have our own hospital and all that stuff. But because they're growing those programs, there's more access for all the students to take classes in those schools. And also my classes aren't just in political science buildings. I've taken like a politics and film class in the brand new science and engineering building. So you really find your own way. And the best way to go about it is just to talk to your advisor and find out for yourself.
Great. All great answers. Thank you. All right. I'm going to talk size now. All right. Now, 4 of you go to reasonably large schools, some very large schools. And so I would love to hear about your class sizes, getting to know professors, and your experience with how a big university works to make it feel smaller. I could pick on one of you or ask who wants to start. I'm going to start with you, Will. We'll go back. I'm going to go reverse.
Yeah. So the good thing about GW is, well, it is a large student body. It feels pretty small because it's in an urban environment. Like I can walk. It only takes me 15 minutes to walk across campus, which is really nice. For the most part, my classes are relatively large. Like all the intro classes are pretty big, but
What's pretty big?
Like 100 students. I've taken a class of 200 students, but you realize pretty quickly you can take classes that are like down to 40 kids, and at that point it kind of just feels normal because you're already used to having a larger class size. So at that point it's not that bad. But I've had classes with only 20 kids in them, and that's nice. But that's as you start to become more specialized in whatever you're doing. But the greatest thing I think is about GW size is that while it is a big school, it's relatively compact because you're in the center of DC, but at the same time the campus is really well defined. It's very clear when you're on GW grounds, and then if you walk just 10 minutes east, you realize that you're in a city and you have all the resources of a city. So it is good because it's a large school, but you find your own way about it.
Good, thank you. Olivia, tell me about your classes and how you found them.
Yeah, so this I feel like also too kind of ties back to the last question of something I was surprised. Um, I was really shocked at the amount of personal attention that I got from professors at Michigan. I mean, it's 30,000 undergrads, so I went there expecting there to be just super large classes for everything. No real connection with the professors, just kind of, just like lecture style classes. And my very first class, first semester freshman year, was Italian 101, and I walked in and there were like 15 kids in the class. And so it was like really surprising. And I've had so many classes. All my art classes are under 20 people. Really, I've taken big lectures. So like, I would say like I agree with Will that the more like intro level classes are definitely bigger. So like Econ 101, Com 101, like those kind of like bigger freshman intro classes, like those will probably be closer to like the 300. But the good thing about Michigan is that they do like breakout sessions once a week. So like if you do have a big lecture, and they do consider like a big lecture, like, I mean, they'll consider like 60 people a bigger lecture, and like you'll have a breakout session once a week with a graduate student instructor. So if you do like have questions or like confused about something, you have like that smaller classroom to discuss it. And then the professors are super accessible. The big lecture classes, like I thought the professors were going to be really like kind of uptight, like not wanting to talk to students, and that is like the complete opposite. I mean, professors are basically begging kids to come to their office hours, like they're begging kids to get to know them. They like love when kids come up and introduce themselves. It's definitely like more something you have to do on your own. Like you definitely have to initiate it. Especially if you are in like one of those big like 300 people lectures, then like you have to go up to the professor. But I've never had an experience where a professor has like not wanted to help me or like not wanted to talk to me. And I've made like personal connections with so many of like my smaller classroom professors. So I also think it's really nice because like you get a mix of both the large classroom and the small personal classroom. So it's kind of like a nice balance of both. And so I think that's like a really nice aspect, and something that I don't think gets represented very well, because like a lot of people just automatically assume that big school, like big classes, and that's like not in any way true. Like you will have small classes, you will have classes with like 10, 15 people. So I think that would be like my biggest thing in terms of class size with Michigan.
Great. Alex, what has been your experience in thinking how the big university is made to feel smaller?
Yeah, I think I would totally echo everything that Olivia said. I think I was surprised by how balanced my classes were in terms of large and small. I've had classes as small as 10 kids, my French class, and I've had classes as big as over 300 kids, and I don't even know the exact number of how many kids are there. But I think the good thing about that is really like once you're at 100, at least in my opinion, I don't think it makes a difference. Like you're sitting where you're sitting and you can't see the kids behind you, and it's kind of all the same. But I think something I would also just really emphasize, like Olivia was saying, it's really what at a big university, at least my experience, has been all the resources are there. It's about you taking initiative to find them and then use them. So we have discussion sections like that are optional. So you go to them, and like the business school has the business learning commons. So that has been a huge resource for me. First of all, the library in which it's housed is gorgeous. They just built this new library within the business school 2 years ago. I literally live there. I love it. But they have graduate students who are teaching all of the basic econ classes and basic business classes that are required. And that I've had one-on-one tutoring. Like if no one else shows up, they have them up to 4 nights a week, and you're just able to talk everything out with a graduate student. And I think that's also really important, is knowing what kind of learner you are. So for me, it's really helpful to talk things out. So I was able to go find those places where I could do that. And I think as far as professors go, same thing. They're begging you to come hang out with them, talk to them about classes, about what's going on, like in the real world, based on the curriculum that you're studying. And I think that everything has just been super accessible. It's just taking initiative to go get what you need.
Kate, do you want to add to that about your experience?
For sure, same thing. Go. I wouldn't even say it's what you make it. It's like, you better make it. It will improve your experience of learning and just existing so much, to have a good relationship with your professors. There have been several times over the course of my college career where I screwed something up, and I had maintained a very good relationship with my professor, and they totally let it slide. I have also had experiences where things were not let slide, so don't stay on top of your work. But what UT has that's special that you would want to know about, that they'll tell you at orientation a little more if you decide to go there, is the FIG program. It's a freshman interest group. And a lot of your classes, your first 2 years, like I mentioned, the core classes and your intro classes for your major, even the first 4 film classes I took were lectures. They were film history mostly. And they will put you in a group of 25 kids in your major and put you in a big lecture class that is an intro for your major, your first film class, and another credit that you need to knock out, that you can combine, your first film or journalism or whatever class with a physics class. If you're like, I just want to knock out physics right now. My FIG was we chose the music credit, and it was history of rock music. So think about 25 film majors who are like into classic rock in the same room. We were people that had a lot in common. Everyone's experience with their FIG is different. I know people who said, I was not friends with anybody in my FIG. It was such a waste of time. But for me, my best friends to this day, and actually my boyfriend also, were in my FIG. I met them on the first day of school. And those 25 kids, you have in big lectures, you will have a discussion section on another night where they put you in a room with like 25 kids in the class and a TA, and you guys talk a little bit more intimately about the subject matter. Those section periods will be spent with your FIG. So even though you're in huge lectures, you are still seeing the same 25 kids every day amongst all those faces. And it does such a good job of making it feel small. And you have to go into your FIG with an open mind, because I walked in on the first day and I looked around and I was like, these people look so weird and I don't want to be friends with any of them. And they ended up being some of my best friends. I'm trying to think, just in terms of the size, I think everyone else pretty much nailed it.
Okay. Let's turn to okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I just had one thing to add, like thinking about like size of classes too, like in terms of meeting people in your classes. Like I know a lot of people say like, oh, I really want to like meet people in my classes, but I feel like big classes, like it's hard to do that. So like I think that's another thing, is that you like sit next to people like in these lectures, and like I've met so many people through my lectures. Like I can't even express like the amount of friends that I've made just sitting next to someone random in a lecture and just striking up a conversation on the first day. Like, so people like don't think that like just because it's a big like class that everyone's gonna ignore each other. Like everyone's there to like help you out. Like I would turn to people and be like what the professor just say, and then they would like help me out, and we'd like exchange phone numbers, and then like instantly like that was a new friend that I made. So I think that's just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Holly attends a school that has, what is it now? It's under 2,500 students.
Yeah.
You intentionally picked small schools to apply to. Just, give us a little bit about your experience in the classroom, because your largest class was how many?
I I was in my intro gov class was it was open for 120 people, but I think only 80 registered. And that was only because one professor was teaching it that semester and he didn't want to have multiple sections that were going to be not on the same schedule of classes. So he just decided to make it big and have it in the auditorium, and there's never a class in the auditorium. So we don't even have classrooms really that are that big. And my psych lecture was 50 kids, but even with that, everyone felt comfortable raising their hands and asking questions during lecture, and the professors are so easily accessible on campus, and they want you to come talk to them and come to their office hours and just be helpful for you in any way possible, even if it's not with classes. But now that I have a major, most of my classes are at 25 kids. Some of them aren't even 20. It just depends. And that also helps because you have a greater chance of getting into the classes that you want. Because, I mean, some of the classes can grow. My econ class last semester was 30 kids because a lot of kids wanted to be in the class, but because they start out so small, they have room to grow, which gives kids opportunities to register for classes each semester. But I would say that that's what I wanted. I didn't really want big classes, and the professors are they definitely want you to come. A lot of my professors make you come to office hours, so you know where their office is, so you know what time works for you, because a lot of the time it doesn't fit into your schedule. So if it doesn't, you can email them and figure out a time where you don't have class and they're not teaching. But a lot of my professors, for the first assignment, is like, and it's part of your grade, it's like 2% of your grade, you have to go meet with them and talk with them. And a lot of the time we haven't even learned anything in class yet, they just want to get to know you. And I think those connections really help because you want to show up for class and you want to learn from this person because they're showing interest not just in the information that they're teaching you, but how it's going to affect you in the future. And most of them are academic advisors, so they can answer all your questions, even if they're not in your major or if they are. But I definitely wanted that sort of feeling. But even if you're in bigger classes, the professors are still easily accessible. And definitely going off of what Olivia said, class friends are the best friends because when you meet them, you're both like, I don't know anyone in this class, and you sit down and you start talking to the person on your left or your right, and all of a sudden you're on the same page and you have someone to talk to about an assignment or the homework. And you definitely create those friends like in your major and out of your major, which is always really helpful.
Okay. I want to move away because we're spending a lot of time on academics. We got to get to the social life. So I'm going to go right into social life and thinking in terms of the activities that students are involved in. So 4 of you are involved in Greek life. And I guess, part of my question is the social life of the campus, is it on campus? Is it, some of you are in cities? Is it as much, in the surrounding town and city? Just if you can give a little bit on each of you who are in Greek life, why you joined, maybe a little bit about parties, exclusivity, things like that. I'll start back with you, Holly. And I do have I want to, I don't have to, just a little bit on Greek, because I want to also talk about housing and what makes your schools especially unique.
So at F&M, I think that the social life revolves around what kind of organization you're involved in. So a lot of the time it's Greek, but it's also athletic teams. So usually you're like going to parties with similar people who are athletes or non-athletes, but also like the Black Student Union and other ethnic organizations on campus have their own houses as well, so everyone kind of mixes together. But I would say that it's usually just like an organization that is hosting something. It's never just like a random group of people, because the school doesn't allow that. You have to register a party as an organization with an advisor on campus, so it's usually revolves around that. But I would say everyone can go and at a certain time, so it's not really like, as a freshman I wasn't in anything first semester, so that didn't make it difficult to do things on the weekend. And F&M is small, so going off campus, you're not like, it's not far away from actual campus. But yeah, I would say that usually the people who are going out are involved in something, but that's usually the majority of the school because it ranges for a lot of different people and different things.
Alex.
Yeah, I think kind of similar. At such a big school, everyone kind of has their own thing going on. So whether that's Greek life, sports teams, other orgs and things, you kind of just cluster with your friends. And different from F&M though, our campus and off campus are really, really integrated at Wisconsin. So you could be on campus. Like I live off campus, but I live closer to a lot of the buildings than some kids on campus live, if that makes sense. And so as far as Greek life goes, I think that at least talking to friends at different schools, I think we have a very inclusive Greek life as far as just kind of what you have access to. Like I'm friends with so many people who aren't in Greek life and have different things, and like it doesn't really make a difference. It's just kind of one part of your life and one aspect of social or philanthropy things that you're involved in. Trying to think what else. I mean, and then nothing is really, as far as things getting registered, it's very much word of mouth. So specific things for Greek life are registered through Panhell, but you don't, as I've never had an issue like having to be on a list or anything. You kind of just show up with your friends and like go where you have other friends going. So yeah.
Good, thanks. Olivia.
Yeah, so I think a lot like just goes off of Alex. I know like the Greek life at Michigan and Wisconsin like are very similar. So like I think everything like I pretty much agree with. It's not exclusive whatsoever. It doesn't dominate campus culture at all. It's kind of just there if you want to get involved. I joined to meet friends, and I met my best friends through Greek life, but I've also met some best friends who aren't in Greek life, and I have best friends in other sororities, like not my particular sorority, but you know, we're in Greek life. And so I think it's like extremely fluid. It's kind of just like Alex said, it's one part of your college experience. And I think something to add about like just exclusivity, like there's really no exclusivity. Like everyone kind of just like finds their niche and their people. And I mean, you can really like go anywhere. I mean, I would say it's probably a little bit more sectioned off like freshman, sophomore year. And then the good thing about Michigan is like you are in Ann Arbor, so you have that fun like college town city feel, but Ann Arbor's not too overwhelming. It's not like a city like New York City. It's a manageable city, and there's bars and clubs and restaurants. And so especially when you get to like junior, senior year, it's like really fun because sort of like everyone starts to like gather at like bars, and so you really do sort of like integrate like Greek life people, non-Greek life people at the bars and the clubs, and going out in like restaurants and stuff is so easy. And yeah, I would just say like also to clubs, like clubs usually like will have their own like social things, so like really any like kind of activity you join, like there's going to be some kind of like social aspect to it.
Okay. Will, what can you tell us about Greek life at GW and why you joined? You joined your sophomore year, right?
I mean, yeah, I just joined. I basically joined
when you had to come home.
When I had to come home. So I haven't been in too long, but my fraternity doesn't even like have a house or anything like that. There are fraternities that have like little like townhouse type things within like the blocks of GW. But it's kind of just another group of people to hang out with. It's pretty, there are a lot of professional fraternities. Mine isn't, but that's the main way I see it. It's just like people to go to for advice or internships or anything like that. But it's just another group of people to hang out with.
And another network.
Or DC with, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I want to spend a little bit of time on housing and then talk about some of the things, stereotypes and other things that make your close with that, and who would be a good fit for your school. So, Kate.
About Greek life very quickly. I rushed. The rush process at UT is rigorous. You move into your freshman apartment. This is sorority rush. Fraternity is a little more easygoing. Sorority rush, you have to move into your apartment a week early. I paid extra to come here early. I paid a fee to rush. It was 7 full days. And you need to once everyone's in their sororities and fraternities, the Greek life system is not very exclusive. I ended up not getting into the sorority that I wanted, and I didn't end up re-rushing. I found that if you're not in Greek life your freshman year, you kind of missed the point unless, all of your friends are AKIOs. So you want to just officially be an AKIO, that's fine, and people re-rush for that. But I was, my first couple of years, I was a huge frat star, not in a sorority, had a great time. But I underestimated, you got to know someone to get into most of these houses. So do your research, do your networking. A little letter of rec from your friend's mom who was in that sorority 40 years ago at a different school is not going to help you. And yeah, that's Greek life at UT. And
it's probably also, Texas is the South. It's different at Southern schools. Because I want to get to, the fit questions, I just really quickly, UT Austin, not required to live on campus even as a freshman, but UT Austin is one of those schools where you put down your housing deposit. You don't put down, you do have to put down a housing deposit, correct? Yes? Mm-hmm. Immediately. And then it's up to you to work out your own housing.
Yeah. So what you will find at UT, I assume that we all come from, similar families, similar places, and most of the out-of-state kids do not live on campus. I personally would not recommend it. Everybody I know who did it was like, what a waste of time. I really should have just been in an apartment with a kitchen and a balcony. These student housing options here are ridiculously luxurious. I'll actually show you, because this is just insane what you can get for the money here. For half of what my friend who lives in Ann Arbor and went to Michigan pays, I have this patio of my apartment. This is just me and my 2 roommates. But you will find the most important thing that you can do to find roommates at UT is to get in a group me. Out-of-state kids, every year they make these group me's. But every school has them. But yeah, the out-of-state, tri-state area people make group me's. You make friends, and you find roommates, and you will talk to other girls and guys like you and find out what buildings they're all living in. The building that all of the out-of-state kids lived in freshman year just got torn down. It was the greatest year of my life, and we all cried when the blast went off. But the most important thing that you need to be ready for once you sort that out, because you will figure it out, getting your freshman roommates together through social media. But you need to be ready that when you get here, you need to sign a lease for next school year. You got to be done by if it's Halloween and you don't have a lease, you have a problem, because you are not going to get into the buildings that you want. I found this apartment in the first week of September, and I called my friends. I called this place. I said, is this apartment still available? And they said, yes. I said, hold it, give me 1 day. And I got my friends to all sign leases. So
I'm going to actually I want to turn to Holly a second. Why don't you just give us a couple of little things about the house system because Franklin Marshall is somewhat unique. It's yeah.
So freshman year, you get put into one of 5 freshman dorms on campus, and they're all in the same quad that surround the dining hall. And so basically, you have your typical HA with your little hall group, and that's the group that you go with through orientation. And it's good because it gives you just a few people that you know in the beginning of college, so you don't really kind of feel alone. And also roommates are random, so even if you don't know the person, it's like another person that you get to know. And the cool thing about it is you stick with your house throughout all 4 years on campus, so you can live there the next years, but even if you don't, you still have those same resources. So the dean and the don are there, and they're there to help you. And they always send out emails, and that, like, I was in Bonchak, and that is my community now. So there's a whole group of people who I have, I'm in the same email chain with, or we get invited to certain things that are hosted in our house, which is definitely really helpful. A lot of the time you have like first come, first serve on special events that each house is hosting. And it's definitely nice to have someone who has known you all throughout your college experience. I've met with my dean many times, and she helped me freshman year with some things, and I met with her at the end of this year. So just having that person who is a constant really helps, and also just knowing the people that you met first semester. And yeah, I think that is one thing that I definitely loved my freshman year.
Okay. All right, I'm going to, because we're running out of time, we may run a little bit over. I want to talk about political vibes first, because one of you goes to school in the nation's capital, and two of you go to schools in your state's capitals. So, Will, we all think that of the DC schools, where students who go there are all very politically active, politically minded. True for GW?
It's true. It's more the fact that if you want to do that, then it's open for you. You can do, there are endless possibilities there. Endless opportunities to get internships. I think that's one of the great things about GW is that, like, all the professors have connections and they want to get you internships, especially political ones. But I would say that if you don't care for any of that stuff and you don't want to be a part of it, then you can easily block that out. Obviously, you hear about protests every once in a while, but they never really come through GW at all. Like, it's like, once again, like, you think GW is like really integrated into the city, but when you're a student there, you kind of block all that out, and it's really just like, it's kind of just like any other campus in a way. But I would say,
oh, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I just also, how about balance in terms of, political parties and different attitude views?
Yeah, you don't, unless you're really like hunting for it, you're not really going to find it. People are kind of focused on themselves, and they're not, unless you're joining one of the political clubs, you're not really going to face any of that stuff, but they're equal. It's pretty well balanced there. There's no,
all voices are represented.
Yeah, there's no like overreaching part of GW that's trying to like push you in one direction.
And Kate, I know that because Austin is the capital, it's a pretty political place. What would you say about balance?
It is a huge campus. You will definitely find, probably just because it is a college campus in a very liberal city, they call it the blueberry and the tomato soup, that the student body at large is pretty liberal. I would say the political vibe on campus, and I don't know if it just feels so intense for me because I started school here in fall of 2016. But we definitely, I've seen my fair share of protests and stuff, and sorry for any parents who are listening, but my first week of school was the infamous Cox Not Glocks protest, where the student body distributed sex toys because it is illegal to openly carry them in the state of Texas. So everyone tied them to their backpacks to protest open carry, and someone handed me a handful of free sex toys on my way to class. So that was just a fun one. there's definitely, if you're looking for politics, you will find it. It is, as I'm sure the case with most big schools, if you're not looking for it, it is mostly avoidable except for when they have occupied a part of campus, which happens several times a year.
Um, Madison, not person Madison, city of Madison.
I would say, yeah, I mean, I think you have to remember that Wisconsin's a state school, so 2/3 of the student body are coming from either Wisconsin or Minnesota with the reciprocity. Like Austin, Madison is definitely a little liberal hub within the state. So I think that the student, like, that's the experience that I've had. I'm trying to think as far as activity, I think same kind of thing. Like if there are occasional political protests, things like that. I know that we've recently had an issue with diversity on Wisconsin's campus. So I think that's something that we're still really working on, and the campus is very aware of it. So some still room for progress, clearly, that we have to work on. I think it was really cool. Last year I got to hear Joe Biden speak, which was awesome. So yeah.
Good. All right, because we're running out of time, I have one question I want all of you to answer. This is my stereotype question. What is the stereotype of your institution and how accurate is it? Who wants to start? Olivia.
Yeah, so I can start. So Michigan, like I guess the stereotype that I've heard is that we're a little stuck up. Like we think that we're like the best Big Ten, and we're, you know, like the both academics and social life, and especially like within like the out of staters, like because it's 50%, it's 40% out of state, 60% in state. So I think like the stereotype among out of staters is that they're kind of like more posh, and that the in staters are like not as. But I think that's like I don't like really think it's that true, to be honest. Like I said earlier, like Michigan is so diverse that I don't get the sense that like people think they're like very elitist. But I think the stereotype of like work hard, play hard is like really true, and it's something that like I really come to love about Michigan, is that we do sort of have the reputation of being like a very academically rigorous school, but also like a very fun social school, and I think that's extremely true. People work so hard, like crazy hard at school, and people are doing like the absolute most like amazing things when it comes to academics, and then those same people like are going out like on the weekends and stuff, and going to the tailgates and the football games, and are participating in the social life. So I think like that stereotype of like the work hard, play hard, like Michigan student is like very true. Like Michigan students, like they work very hard in school, but they also like to enjoy themselves and like appreciate a social life, and appreciate, you know, taking a step back from school, and, you know, realizing that there's other things.
Okay, Alex, I think Wisconsin, would you
Yeah, I mean,
pretty similar to Michigan?
I would say it's similar. I would say that the stereotype is that Wisconsin's always trying to keep up with Michigan so that we're less academically strong. So I disagree with that stereotype. Obviously, I have to. But I think that, I mean, the parties are there when you want them. Like, if you want to be darting before a game on the lake, or like in the middle of winter, like you can go on the frozen lake and party on the weekends with your friends. But you just like have to know yourself. So like if you have an exam and you have things going on the next week, you know that like no one's going to judge you for not going out. And I think that academics, especially depending on what you're studying, everyone kind of knows. So like you have 300 kids taking a finance exam with you. So all 300 kids for the most part are staying in studying. But I think that, yeah, I think we just have it's a great balance. I think it's like the perfect, at least for me, it's been the perfect mix of academics with a big social scene, but also not social scene revolving around parties. I mean, Madison is so awesome. We have a farmer's market every weekend when the weather is nice around the Capitol, which has been a highlight, and I'm a total foodie, so I absolutely love that.
I remember
and the food in Madison itself is incredible, like beyond like cheese and dairy products, which if you go, like you have to have cheese curds. The food itself is phenomenal. But yeah, I think like, and people are always on the lake. Like that's the coolest thing too. Like you're studying in the library and I'll see people like windsurfing on the lake and kayaking and canoeing. So I think that a lot similar to Michigan, and we just have like a lot of different things going on. Balance has definitely been my favorite part of it.
Holly, tell me about what's the stereotype?
I would say everyone thinks like your small liberal arts schools on the East Coast are like very preppy and like, I don't know, just attract East Coast kids that, you know, like guys that wear khakis and like are frat boys and girls who are, you know, in sororities. But I think we're a lot more than that. Like, yes, that's who we are, but it's also a very diverse campus. And what you wouldn't expect is that we have really good athletics. And I don't think we're not known for that, or like, I don't know if we would be, but at the same time, for a D3 school, a lot of people are on sports teams, which I think adds the kind of rah-rah feeling that I wanted to have, like if I were to go to a Wisconsin or a Michigan. But I definitely think that going into the process, I didn't know it was as academically rigorous as it is, because the school that I applied to early, I thought was on a different level than what I am at now at F&M, but I definitely was completely wrong about that. So I think that just knowing that you're getting yourself into more than, I definitely got myself into more than I thought I was, and I'm happy about that because I'm being challenged academically. But I definitely don't think that that's talked about the school. I just think that like a lot of people are like, oh, your typical small liberal arts school, like preppy feel, but we definitely have that, but there's definitely more to it, and campus is beautiful, and I think people know that. And the city of Lancaster is great, and you're not in the middle of nowhere because you're surrounded by a city, but when you're on campus, and we have pretty quads and nice blue Adirondack chairs, and I think people know that about it.
Yeah. Okay, Kate.
I don't think that you can stereotype any kind of like the quintessential UT student, because the campus is so diverse and you can have so many different kinds of people who are I can extremely stereotype 8 different groups of people, and I'm friends with every single one of them. But if I had to stereotype Texas on the whole, and what I envisioned of it going there was just like a Texan. The school is, the year I started, I'm sure it's still roughly the same. It was something like 17% out of state or something crazy like that. You will make friends with Texans. Most of my closest friends are originally from Texas. If you're in Greek life, you'll probably have more of a balance because Greek life attracts a lot of out of state, depending on the sorority or fraternity you're in. But you will, and how true is it? It's true because people here are Texans. They're like born and bred, like with a, you know, their first word is like hook 'em. It's crazy. I have friends who knew they were gonna go here since they were 3, and you will conform to that stereotype, and it will be the most fun, amazing experience of your life. The most amazing rite of passage is going to Allen's and buying your first pair of cowboy boots, because you do need them for game day. I love my boots, and just, I always tell people that studying at UT was like a study abroad experience. I actually chose not to study abroad while I was in school, and for a number of reasons, but I just tell people that Texas was enough of a study abroad experience. It is like living in a different world that is different.
Or an East Coaster.
So much. So different from the East Coast. So different.
How about you, Will? You get to close this up here. Tell us about the stereotype of GW and GW students, and is it true?
Well, it's definitely the political aspect of it all. Just like, you know, you must feel on like an everyday basis, just like how politically active it is. But it really isn't, because like the campus is so clearly defined. You kind of forget about how like you're in the middle of the city and how like the White House is just five blocks away from your dorm, basically. But that's like the other great thing about it is that like you're in campus, but you can easily just walk 10 minutes to the Lincoln Memorial. And no matter what, whether you're politically active or not, everyone loves that. All the museums in the world, the best ones, you can go to just like a quick walk away. So I'd say that's the best part about it, is that like you can get that campus feeling without all the political, whatever. But if you want, you can also get the city feeling. So it's just all around has a lot.
Great. Well, I want to thank my wonderful panelists. You guys have been great. This has been really informative, and I am really grateful for all of you, for participating. And I wish you all good luck. I wish Kate you good luck as you head into the real world. And those of you, I hope you get back to campus in the fall and finish out your college careers strong. So thank you again, and I wish everyone a good evening.
Thanks, Jane.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.